Hey, welcome to the Nursing Dose with your host, Dr. Farah Laurent. Today, I want to talk to you about behavioral style questions that can literally make or break you as a new nurse in the interview process. Okay, I literally just recorded a YouTube video on this, and it'll drop in the next couple weeks. So definitely check out my YouTube channel if you haven't checked it out yet. Go to the Nursing Dose with Farah on YouTube. You'll see the video section. Go there, subscribe, check out my videos. It's specifically for new nurses and senior nursing students looking to get hired faster. A bunch of tips on interviews on there. But today I'm going to break down the most commonly asked behavioral style questions in an interview and what most new nurses do wrong while answering these questions. And I'm going to give you some tips on strategies of how to fix it. And of course, give you the opportunity to join my free webinar this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern and 10 a.m. PST. And again, this free webinar is for all senior nursing students or new graduate nurses in the US or Canada. Okay. And for those who don't know me and you are new to my channel, for those watching on TikTok, what's up, Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube. My name's Dr. Farah Laurent. I've been a nurse for over 20 years, been featured in media such as the Jennifer Hudson Show for the work that I do with new graduate nurses, helping them find their dream job in less than 90 days in their preferred specialties like the ICU, the ER, SICU, MICU, NICU, L&D, psych, you name it. I am helping these nurses land their preferred specialty because many are second guessing whether they can get these specialties or if they should just settle for something less. But I'm helping them get these positions in record time. Okay. I'm also a keynote speaker and a podcaster and an author, and of course, the founder of Farah Laurent International Nurse Coach and the host of Nurses Making Business Moves. Okay. So, shout out to everybody watching. If you're happy to be watching the replay, welcome. And thank you again for watching. So let's break it down. Why is this so important? And why am I even covering behavioral style questions? Because one of the most common questions that I get from new nurses is, hey, can you help me with interview tips? How can I stand out in the job search process? And they tell me they're getting rejected, they're not getting offers, and these are some of the reasons why. Literally today, I actually coached one of my private paid clients, and we did an hour of mock interviews on behavioral style interviews. All right. So let me break it down for you. One of the top behavioral style questions that employers love to ask is, tell me a time you went above and beyond for a client, right? For a patient, a client, family member, whatever that is. Most people get it wrong because they're thinking in terms of normal job description. Doing something within your job description is not going above and beyond. Okay. So many times, past clients or even other nurses that I have spoken to will give the basic answers for this above and beyond story. And that is not what employers are looking for. Okay. If you give an answer that says something like, oh, I was, uh, giving extra blankets to this patient, or, I went to dietary and I got them extra food and this and this and this, that is not going above and beyond. That is simply regular duties in your nursing description. Okay. So, what fits, going above and beyond? I'll give you a quick example. So, as a former ER nurse, like I said, I was an ER nurse for 13 years. There was this one time where two patients were admitted, they're a husband and female, and they were actually going to um, be admitted on different units because at that time they couldn't be in the same room. Males and females could not be admitted together. So, what I did was I actually had to talk to a couple supervisors, talk to bed board, and really do a lot of digging and coordinating to try to get approval for this couple who they were an elderly couple and like something happened and they ended up in the ER. But they really wanted to be together in the room and they had to stay there at least a couple days. So I pulled so many strings, got on the phone, talked to so many different supervisors and bed board back and forth until they finally approved it. And then they were able to be in a semi-private room together. So that is going above and beyond because it's not part of your job description. Typically, when bed board gives you a bed, you just send the patient up. But that is just taking extra steps to get something done for a patient or their family. And they were so happy and, so thankful for that. Okay. So it doesn't have to be an elaborate story like that. It could be something like even just staying extra. Maybe one time you stayed extra, a couple minutes extra after your shift because you had to do something for a patient. And I'm not saying like that's the typical norm and you should do that, but I'm just saying dig a little deeper, find something that really highlights, something that you did that was above and beyond. Okay. So that's number one. And number two is they love to ask this question is typically they'll say, tell me a time when you advocated for a patient. What was the situation and what did you do to advocate for this patient? Okay. So here they're looking for something, they want to know that you are ready to step in and advocate for patients at any time. So they want to see if you've done that in the past and really how are you going to do that moving forward because they want someone who's going to be a strong advocate. Okay. So definitely, if you are a senior nursing student, one of the tips that I want you to do, of course, without revealing any patient information and keeping confidentiality, you don't have to use any names or any specifics, just some general things that you want to keep to say, hey, I was able to do this or this for this patient without giving any identifiers at all. That keeps it confidential so that when you do go to your interviews, you don't just draw blank and think like, oh man, I don't remember doing anything related to advocacy or going above and beyond. So just quickly jot down some things that you think you could take to the interviews when you start being invited to interviews. Okay. So an advocacy story could be simply something where maybe you advocated for a patient when it came to a medication or maybe a procedure that they were supposed to go to, or maybe they had to go to physical therapy, but they were not, ready to go because they weren't, pain management wasn't done in time. So, coordinating with the team to advocate, anything like that. Or maybe the patient was, former ER nurse here, obviously. Maybe the patient in the ER, the physician said that they're ready for discharge, but maybe you see something further in the assessment that makes you think like, no, this person's not ready for discharge. Something is off, something is wrong. So you need to escalate the situation and advocate for this patient. Actually happened to me without giving too many details. I was working in a level 1 trauma center. Something happened to a patient. They kept trying to discharge her and I was like, nope, she's not going to be discharged. Her vital signs are abnormal. She was tachycardic, hypotensive, which are shock type numbers. I'm like, something is not right. So I really had to push for the attending to go back to reassess her. And, without giving too many details, she ended up having something in the abdomen, literally a ruptured spleen, big emergency. So she actually had to go to the OR and be admitted. So imagine I didn't have that instinct to advocate for that patient. It could have ended really badly for that person, right? So this is what I'm talking about. I mean, that one's in a big elaborate one, but you need to think of a couple advocacy stories that you have in your back pocket. So when they ask you this, you can concisely tell the story. And a nice way that I like to tell my clients when they join my coaching program A lot of people will give you the acronym STAR, but I can't remember STAR. So I tell them to use SBAR. So how do you tell stories when you're telling behavioral style stories? I say use the method SBAR. We all know SBAR, it's the handoff method, but tweak it and you can actually tell your stories that way. So S stands for situation, B is for background, right? So give them a situation. Hey, I was a student with my preceptor on this telemetry unit. The background is we were taking care of this type of patient who had this, and this, like without giving too much info, obviously, right? And then A, this is the action that I took, and R, this is the result that happened. And that's it. That's how you tell your story. Short, concise, to the point. And remember, these interviewers don't have a whole lot of time to hear all these extra details. Like, we don't want to have too many irrelevant details that are not necessary for the story. In these stories, you want to demonstrate your expertise, demonstrate your assessment skills, your skills, your strengths, and really articulate your value of why you should be hired in that particular position, whether it's to be an ER nurse, an ICU nurse, L&D, pediatrics, NICU, whatever. You want to highlight those skills that will make you the top candidate and that you would be unforgettable. And the stories that you tell should be related to the position that you're applying for. So let's say you're applying for a labor and delivery role and they're asking you for behavioral style questions of where you advocated, then you probably should go back to your maternity, labor and delivery rotation and think up a story of where you actually advocated for someone there and take that story to bring to your L&D interview. It makes the most sense. Now, let's say you don't have anything that relates. I would just bring something that you can relate that's like the closest thing. Okay. Another question, I'm going to get into another question that they like to ask. But before I get into that, if you're just joining me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Facebook, I am sharing behavioral style questions that you need to know for your next new grad interview or your next residency program interview. And this can literally make or break your interview. And these are the tips that I'm sharing. I'm also inviting you to attend my free webinar that happens this Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern or 10 a.m. PST, that's Pacific Standard Time, for all my people out in Cali, in that area. And let me know if you've signed up for the webinar. Drop it in the chat, especially if you're on TikTok. I know there's a lot of people here on TikTok or on all the other platforms. Let me know in the chat. And if you are on LinkedIn, give me a shout out. Let me know if you're watching. And if you happen to be watching the replay, same thing. I will put the actual link here so you guys can sign up for this webinar. You don't want to miss it. In this webinar, I dive deeper into interview tips, job search tips, and I talk about the reasons why most nurses are not getting hired, what to do to stand out, and how to get hired faster. Okay. So how do you sign up for this webinar? Simply go to newnursejob.com. Do it right now, because once this webinar fills up, you have to wait until the next one. So you don't want to do that. Go sign up right now, newnursejob.com. The link is in the bio on TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and it's also in the description in my YouTube channel as well. Okay. So you don't want to miss out. Come hang out with me, especially if you are a new graduate nurse. You've been struggling to get interviews. You can't even seem to make it to the interview stage. This webinar is for you. If you are getting interviews, but for some reason you can't seem to get an offer, this webinar is for you. And let's say you're watching and you're like, you know what? I already have a job, but I hate my job. I hate it. I'm miserable. I don't want to work this position and I need to transition into a new role. This webinar is also for you. Okay. It doesn't matter if you've been a nurse 1 year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years. If you're ready to make that transition and get something that you're actually happy in, that you're excited to go to work, this webinar also applies to you because these are foundational interview skills that I even help nurse practitioners get roles. I recently helped Joy, which was one of my clients, secure a remote role as a psych NP. This also works for nursing executives if you're trying to get an executive position. I'm a former director of nursing, director of education, and associate dean. So I've helped people get into academia, get into leadership positions, and of course, like I said, nurse practitioners. But of course, my heart lies with the new graduate nurses. So that's why I really focus this webinar from the angle of the new nurse, but really it's foundational skills for any nurse that's looking to transition and pivot. Even if you're transitioning in the hospital, out of the hospital, into like an outpatient setting, or maybe you want to go into education or leadership, these are all fundamentals, interview skills, okay, and job search skills that I teach, because I also teach you LinkedIn strategies, resume tips, cover letter tips, all those things. So come to my free webinar. Only takes a minute to sign up. So go to newnursejob.com. All right, cool. So let me know if you're finding this helpful. Drop any comments or questions. And I'm going to go to the next behavioral style question that will literally, like I said, make or break your next interview. Okay, so this other question that they might ask you is, tell me a time when you had to deal with a patient who was not happy with their care or upset with their care, and how did you handle it? Okay, so essentially this question is they're asking for your customer service, which is patient experience, is what we call in healthcare, right? Those skills, and also how you handle conflict and service recovery, essentially, which is all customer service. Okay, so like I said, definitely subscribe to my YouTube, because I break this down in depth in my YouTube channel, and also we will go over some of these tips in the webinar. But essentially, you want to basically say that you stay professional, you stay calm, your tone is like a relaxed, low tone, you're acknowledging the patient's situation, how they feel, and you listen to them fully without interrupting. And then you give them an opportunity to tell you what it is that they want to be resolved. And then you collaborate on how to fix that, whether it's your patient or not your patient, or, and you just see they're visibly upset. You need to step in and take care of that, right? So that's something they love to ask in interviews, because they want to know how you're able to handle stress, handle conflict, and are you able to do that service recovery and get the patient back to a state where they're happy again, they're content, they're well informed, whether they were waiting a long time or whatever the situation is, that you're able to fix it and fix it correctly and quickly. Okay. And then just really how to build rapport and trust with people in general. And then also, what is your communication style like? And how adaptable are you? And also, how fast are you able to problem solve? Okay. So those are a couple of tips there. And then another question that they might ask is, hey, have you ever noticed a change in condition in a patient, and what did you do about it? So here they're looking for really good assessment skills, attention to detail, and are you able to stay calm in an emergency, if it is an emergency, or are you able to detect changes so that you can actually intervene or escalate the situation if this patient needs to go to a higher level of care? How do you handle it? Who you notify, right? Notify the attending, the team, and then depending where you are, it's going to be very different. If you're in a ICU or the ER, then it's like you're the emergency team. But how you handle it is like you could hit the staff assist button, stay with the patient, and there are different scenarios that you can do, like a code situation, how you handle that, what's your assigned role in a code, and things like that. Okay, and then always following the policy the policies and procedures of the hospital system or the facility that you're working for, and knowing those things. Okay. So that's that. And then are you notifying the right people in a timely, like urgent matter? And are you able to take action quickly? Do you know what equipment to bring depending on the situation, like maybe a crash cart, intubation, um, kit, depending again where you are, or are you calling a rapid response, those types of things. Okay. So that's change in condition or really any emergency situation. They might ask you how you handle those situations. Okay. So I hope that was helpful. Again, in this YouTube video, I go through more of the behavioral style questions and really break it down step by step for you. But these are some of the main common ones. And of course, there's also like, have you ever had conflict with a coworker? Essentially, it's almost the same as handling conflict with either a patient or a family member, but you're just gearing it to a coworker, right? It's the same principles of like really applying the nursing process, like assessing the situation, figuring out what's going on, being objective, being professional, collaborating, seeing what the issue is and coming up with a solution, and then just reevaluating the situation, really. Okay. So those are some of the key behavioral style questions that you need to know for your next interview. Again, I invite you to go check out my YouTube channel, The Nursing Dose with Farah. And more importantly, sign up for this webinar, The New Nurse Job.com. That's the website for you to go sign up, or click the link in the bio. Okay. Let me know if y'all have any questions. Drop them in the chat. Let me know if you've signed up for the webinar. I'll stay on for another minute or two. And again, if you do have an upcoming interview, definitely let me know. And I do have a coaching program. We'll talk about it briefly at the end of the webinar for those who do meet eligibility and criteria to join. And at the end of the webinar, I'll give everybody an opportunity to potentially book a one-on-one consultation call with me if you do meet criteria for the coaching program. Okay. Now my coaching program that I do, it is not for everybody. It's only for those new nurses that are ready to take action, ready to invest in themselves in terms of time and money, because it is a paid coaching program. But again, if you want to get hired faster, research shows if you get a career coach, I'm specifically a nurse career coach, you're 3 times more likely to get hired faster. And you don't have to figure anything out alone. I have a step-by-step program where I have frameworks, strategies, one-on-one coaching, one-on-one support that can get you hired faster. And it's proven. You can literally check out all my testimonials on LinkedIn, on my website, and it's my favorite thing to do is to get new nurses into their preferred specialty. And my clients are typically making anywhere from 10 to 17K a month. Okay. So an extra reason for you to click on that link and come join my free webinar this Thursday, newnursejob.com. That's where you can sign up for it, or just simply click the link. And I hope this was helpful for y'all. And that's it for me. Okay. And I'll see you in the next webinar. Thanks for those who have signed up. And I'll see you next time with more tips, strategies on job search. My name is Dr. Farah Laurent. Go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Go now and click on the link and get the webinar registration going. All right. I'll talk to you soon. Take care, y'all. Bye.